Hey, church family, our reading today is Luke 12. And in Luke 12, Jesus is talking with his disciples. His disciples were worried, fearful, and anxious. They were anxious about their lives, about what they would eat. Jesus and his disciples never really knew where their next meal would come from. They were dependent upon the kindness of their families, friends, and sometimes even strangers to provide food for them. His disciples were also worried about their bodies, about what they would wear. As they followed Jesus around the countryside, sometimes they didn't have a bed to sleep in. They certainly didn't have closets to store clothes in, and they couldn't pull their suitcases behind them. All they really had were the clothes on their back, the shoes on their feet, and whatever supplies they could bring with them. So they were worried, they were fearful, and they were anxious. Today, some of us share those worries, those fears, and those anxieties. We're anxious about our lives, about what we will eat. We may have enough food for today, but what about tomorrow? What about next week? And we're anxious about our bodies, about what we will wear. We may have enough supplies for today, but what about next week? What about next month? What about 2 or 3 months from now? And if we don't have enough food or we don't have enough supplies, will we have enough money to purchase them? In Luke 12, Jesus spends a lot of time teaching his disciples how to live in the face of fear, worry, and anxiety. And we don't have time in this video to unpack Luke 12, so let me encourage you to read that today. But I do want to share just one sentence with you that Jesus shared with his disciples. It's one of my favorite verses, and it's a verse that Jesus uses to remind me to trust him in the face of fear, worry, and anxiety. In Luke 12:32, Jesus says, "Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom." When you're worried, when you're anxious, when you're fearful, Jesus says, fear not. Stop fearing. Why? Because your Father, your Heavenly Father, takes good pleasure. He enjoys, He delights in giving you His kingdom. And if He wants to give you His kingdom, if He takes joy in giving you His kingdom, you better believe that He's going to watch and take care of your daily needs. So church, I encourage you today, meditate on, maybe even memorize Luke 12:32. And as you're faced and you're surrounded with worries and anxieties and fears, call this verse to mind. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom.